Your girl is not feeling well today. But we're pushing through because nobody has time to be sick. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Kendall. So I am not feeling the best today. I don't know if it's like a stomach bug or something I ate. I'm leaning more towards like something I ate just didn't agree with me or something, because I'm not feeling the greatest today. But we're pushing through because that's what you have to do when you have things to get done. Today we are doing the book cover telephone challenge, which I first saw this challenge on Lauren's channel from Lauren Love Reads, and I found out that actually Elizabeth from Reading Riley is the one who created this challenge, which I thought was super cool. So basically, I'm gonna, by the way, before I get started, I'm going to leave both of their channels and the videos that they did in the description below. If you want to check them out, I highly suggest that you do because they were very entertaining to watch. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to start off with one book, and then we are going to continue connecting them. So we're going to have 10 books, and I'm going to connect them down to the last book. So basically what you do is you pick out a book. This is not the book I'm picking, but I'm going to show you guys one off my shelf just so you get like a sense of what we're doing. So let's say I pick Pride and Premeditation by Terza Price. There are so many different things that you could pick about this cover that you could choose. So you could focus on the people, you could focus on the embroidery part, you could focus on the color, the font that they use, flowers, you could focus on this hat or a gun or a dagger or a cup or leaves. There's so many things. Like, you're basically connecting these based on their covers. So that's what we're doing today. I thought this challenge was so much fun because I don't know how many of you know my background for this channel or anything like that, but I did work with Barnes & Noble for about 3 years. I don't work with them anymore. I haven't for a few months now, but I am pretty like positive that this challenge won't be too hard. I'm hoping. It is a bit challenging, but with working in a bookstore, you get exposed to a lot of books and books that you didn't even know existed. And you know, there would be times where I was helping a customer try and find a book and they couldn't think of like the name of the book or the author or something like that. And so I would end up finding books that looked very similar to the ones they were looking for, but weren't exactly the ones they were looking for. So stuff like that leads me to believe maybe that I can put my book selling skills to this challenge and hopefully do a good job. So let's go ahead and get started. So a lot of people for this challenge are doing basically, whoever ends the challenge, you'd pick up like the last book that they ended up on, and then you go from there to your pairs. And I'm pretty sure that's what Lauren did with Elizabeth. She saw her last book and then did that, if I'm not mistaken. But I wanted to do something different. So I was like, I'm going to have one of my friends on Instagram pick out a book that is just random. And so I literally messaged Olivia from Liv's Library and was like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you give me a title of a book? I was like, it could be a book you read, a book you didn't read, or that you want to read. Just anything, just so random, but please give me the title of a book. So she did. And thank you, Olivia, for that. I really appreciate you just going with my random request, not asking questions, and just doing me a good service. So much love for you. And she picked The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And I was like, okay, that is very Very different, but I like it. It's not something I've read. I want to read it because of how many people I've heard talk about it, but we'll see what I end up doing. So, like I said, Olivia picked The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. If you don't know much about this book, it is a historical fiction book. It takes place in France in the late 1930s, early 1940s. So we're following this girl, or this woman, she's not a girl, this woman, Vian, I think is how you say her name. It looks like Vivian, but without the V part in the middle. So Vian, and her husband is leaving to go to war. This is around the time of World War II, and so you have Nazi Germany mixed in, and they're invading France and all of that stuff. And this is the kind of books, like, you know, in this time period where soldiers, especially like Nazi soldiers, were coming in and taking advantage of homes and things like that. So she has this soldier come in and basically take over her home, and she has to feed him and provide him shelter. And that's a really hard thing to do when they are your family and your country's enemy, and you're having to basically take care of them. I can't imagine, like, doing that. That is something that it takes, I think, a special person to be able to do. And then we also have Vian's sister, Isabel, that we are following, who is 18 years old. And, you know, she's searching for meaning in life. She's searching for her purpose and trying to find herself in the world that she is living in. She meets this man, I think his name is Gayton, and they fall in love. He believes that France can defeat Germany from within France, or so he tells her. And, you know, she falls completely head over heels in love with him. But then he basically betrays her and loses her trust. And so she ends up joining the resistance and taking that path in her life. So I decided that... So looking at this cover, the first things that appear to me, believe it or not, aren't like the title or the Eiffel Tower in the back of the picture. It's the single bird and the flowers on the cover. And so that kind of reminded me of the book All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. So I read this book a long time ago in high school, and it follows a boy named Finch and a girl named Violet, and that is obviously what's on the cover of this book. But it starts out really, like, thrown in your face. Finch, which you learn his name is Theodore. Theodore is, like, kind of obsessed with dying. He thinks of different ways that he can die and stuff like that. Like, he doesn't really feel like his life has any meaning to the point where he wants to live. Violet has lost her sister, and she is grieving, but she's also trying to graduate and get out of this town and move on with her life and move forward. But they meet at kind of a where their lives are kind of coming to a meeting point. So they both meet on this, like, ledge at the school, and it's kind of like, is Finch saving Violet, or is Violet saving Finch? But anyway, they end up working on this project in a class where they are, like, looking around for the natural wonders of the world, and so they're going on these adventures together, and they're learning more about each other and opening up and possibly falling in love. I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty, like, heart-wrenching read. There are many moments in the book where your breath just kind of, like, you know, catches, and you're just kind of stunned. And so I highly recommend this book, even if it's an older type of book and it's not exactly like the genre that you read in. I think it has many important life lessons that everybody needs to learn, so I highly recommend it. So I focused on the sticky notes that are on the cover of All the Bright Places, and it reminded me of, there's a book by Cynthia Hand, and it is called The Last Time We Say Goodbye. And as you can see, it's like a mirror, and there's a sticky note on it. I haven't read tons of books by Cynthia Hand, but I have read some of the ones that she's written with that are like the My Contrary Mary, My Plain Jane, books like that she's written with 2 other authors that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. And I really like those books because they kind of pay homage to classic novels as well. So you have our main character, Lex, whose brother has committed suicide, and she just, I think, is, I think when you have a sibling that dies, or especially dies in the way of committing suicide, you don't really know how to handle that. I'm not going to get into my personal life very much, but I have never had that happen to me. I've never lost a sibling to suicide, but I have been in the position where I have almost lost my sister to attempted suicide, and that was a scary moment. It's very scary when things like that happen, even when it's attempted, just because, you know, you get nervous like every time they don't answer their phone or a text message that they're not going to answer you again, and that is a scary moment in your life, especially when that's like your only sibling. But anyway, moving on back to the book. Sorry, did not mean to get off of topic. But now she thinks that everybody's looking at her, and she knows everybody's like, oh, this girl's gonna like break down, and this girl's just gonna be lost and everything. And I think she's tired of people looking at her as this broken girl and only looking at her for what has happened to her in her life. But she's trying to get her life back together and piece everything back the way it was. But there's a secret that she's kept hidden from people, that she got a text on the night that her brother died, I believe. And she hasn't told anyone about it. And I think it's a text to the point where she feels like she could have saved his life or something like that. But I think it ends up haunting her. And I think this book is really going to go into that kind of situation. So it sounds like a really great read. And it is kind of an older book. It came out in 2015. But I still would pick it up today. Okay, I was struggling for a little bit to figure out the next book. But I might be stretching it. But I'm doing my own version. So it's okay if I stretch it. I'm sure Elizabeth won't mind. So when I see the cover of The Last Time We Say Goodbye, I notice a mirror. And I searched for books that had mirrors on them. But I literally cannot find books with mirrors. I don't have any on my shelves. Not one. So then I was like, well, maybe I could think of one with like a broken mirror. Nope. Which I'm probably just missing them. So if you can think of any and I'm missing them, leave them in the comment section below and correct me, because I swear there are some and I cannot think of it. But I thought, okay, well, mirrors do reflections, so we'll just go with reflections. So when you look in a mirror, it reflects, right? Okay. So we're gonna go with Verity by Colleen Hoover. Verity, y'all. It's one of my favorite books. I think it was my favorite book of 2020. Or maybe 2021. I think it was last year. It was my favorite read of 2020. This is 2022. Good Lord. But basically you have Verity, who is this author of a very successful series, but she had an accident and she is no longer able to write. Her husband, Jeremy, takes care of her at home, and also of their son, which I cannot remember his name right now. I think it starts with a C, but I cannot remember. But then you have our main character, Lowen, who meets Jeremy and they hit it off, and she comes to basically live at his house and finish writing Verity's books for Verity. But Lowen starts seeing things, and she starts seeing what she thinks is Verity moving around the house, which is creepy, and I cannot handle that. But Lowen is kind of, you know, moving in on Jeremy and helping him take care of his and Verity's son and all this other stuff. And, you know, it's just weird. It's a whirlwind. It is. I'm not spoiling anything for you guys. I'm telling you the bare minimum just because it's so good that you don't want me to spoil it for you. So pick it up and read it. I highly, highly recommend it. So on Verity, I focused on the title itself. It's not exactly similar, but it's kind of unique because you don't see a lot of titles that are in cursive writing or like, you know, the loopy handwriting. It's not exactly cursive, but it kind of reminded me of the book Love Lettering by Kate Claiborne. So we're following this girl named Meg who writes and designs these no, I don't think she writes them. I think she just designs like journals and things like that. And she's big in New York. Well, she's also very good at reading signs that other people don't. She meets this guy named Reed and knows that him and his fiance or wife at the time, I don't quite know if it was his fiance or wife, but anyway, she knows that their marriage is gonna fail, and shocker, it does, because she's just good at reading that kind of thing. So Reed kind of tracks her down and is like, how do you know that our marriage is gonna fail? Blah, blah, blah. How do you know this stuff? And Meg's like, I have no time for this. So bye. But Meg's kind of missing like her inspiration. So she's like, well, if you help me find my inspiration, I'll tell you why your marriage is going to fail. And so I think they kind of start opening up to each other and just relying on each other, and maybe some feelings bloom. We're not quite sure. I don't know what's going on. I honestly don't. I don't know how this book is gonna go though. So my whole thing with books kind of like this, I don't really want to recommend them. I don't really read them, and I probably honestly will not read this one if I'm being like 100% honest with you guys, because so to me it's still cheating. It's emotional cheating. You are engaged to another girl, but yet you're hanging out with this other girl and getting to know her and getting feelings for her. So that's cheating. And I don't do books with cheating. I don't like it. I think it's just unacceptable. So I probably won't be reading this one, but it was what reminded me of the letters. So do with that what you will. Okay, so I decided to focus on the city aspect of this book cover. And so it reminded me of the book Spellbreaker, which is by Charlie Ann Holmberg, I believe is how you say his last name. And this is part of a duology. This is going to be the last book that I do. So I only did 6, but I'm having to wrap up this video, and I'm struggling. My years of book selling are not helping me at all. But let me tell you a little bit about this book. So we're following this girl named Elsie, and she is in this world of magic and spells. There are people who pay to have their powers, and there are people who are just born to break them and break their spells, which she happens to be born with those powers. But of course, her powers are illegal, so she's kind of committing crimes when she does them. But she goes into like this underground society and is working for them. She meets this guy who I believe his name is Brackus, is how you say it. Brackus, I'm not 100% sure. But he is, you know, casting spells, and he finds out that Elsie is breaking those spells. And so she makes a bargain with him to keep her secret safe. So they decide to start working together, and, you know, things are leading to, one thing is leading to another. So there are feelings coming into light. But also she is seeing that there are a lot of murders happening of wizards, and there's a lot of spell books that are going missing along with these murders that are happening. So, you know, we have mystery, you have romance, you have some sci-fi fantasy elements in there. So it sounds like a great read to me, and I will probably be picking it up at some point soon. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. I encourage you to do this challenge if you want to. I'm probably going to tag a few people in the section below, just so that if they want to do the challenge, they can as well. I think it's very fun. I had a lot of fun doing it, and just a big shout out to Elizabeth from Reading Riley, who created this challenge. It was so much fun, so unique and different. I love it. And again, I will leave all of their information in the description below, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.